Good afternoon. We wanted to give you all some updates on some cases that we worked late in the week last week, but there's been some new developments on both. Can everybody hear me okay before we get into it? Okay. Well, the first case that I wanted to give an update on, as you all know, last week we arrested 3 siblings. Roxana Carrero, 24 years of age, Pedro Luis Carrero, 18 years of age, Oscar Dominguez, 37 years of age. All were booked for a charge of injury to a disabled with serious bodily injury, which is a first-degree felony. The victim in this case is their mother, Patricia Martinez, 58 years of age, who, as of the day of the arrest, had been at Northeast Methodist Hospital in critical condition. She was on life support. At that time, though, we were expecting that she was not going to survive the injuries brought about as a result of the injuries of the neglect. Sadly, over the weekend, on Saturday around 2:25 p.m., Mrs. Martinez expired due to her medical condition, again brought on by that level of neglect shown to her by the 3 suspects. At this point, we can tell you that the 3 suspects are each booked still in the Bexar County Jail on an $85,000 bond. Each of them has their own $85,000 bond. At this point, we don't know for sure if that charge will be upgraded now that the death of Ms. Martinez is what was the end result in this case. At this point, that injury to a disabled, serious bodily injury, is a first-degree felony. At the same level as a murder. So, at this point, we don't know that it'll be upgraded, but they are held still on those felony charges from before. Any follow-up questions on the death of Ms. Martinez?
So, we need to have whomever is the microphone on to mute it, because it's coming on every time there's noise from them. So for TV, we can use your soundbite because it's being interrupted by whomever has the microphone on.
Okay.
And if we can get also permission to record from the administrator, that would also help because we haven't been given that permission yet. And then if you can repeat in Spanish after that would be great.
Absolutely. I was just wrapping it up with whatever questions there may be in English, and then I'll recap in Spanish. But yes, you do have permission. They're granting permission to record right now. Well, we're certainly going to do everything that we can to make sure that these folks are held accountable. I don't know, all of the ins and outs of what homicide is doing at this point, but I'm certainly not opposed to them trying to up the bond if that's the case. I mean, these folks have not made bond to this point, but anything can happen, and so yeah, absolutely, that would be something I'd be in favor of if it's possible. No, they all have identical charges of injury to a disabled person with serious bodily injury. And it's a first-degree felony on all 3 counts, and all 3 suspects each has an $85,000 bond.
Sheriff, is there any clear picture of how long Ms. Martinez was under hospice care?
All we know of is that it was for several months at this point. As we mentioned before, it does seem as though there may have been some warning signs up to the point that I don't know whether those were reported to law enforcement. I don't believe that they were until the point where we got involved in the investigation on the 16th. But I know that she was in poor health for some time, but I don't have specifics on when she entered hospice or different stages of the treatment.
That they would be going out to the house there on Caballo Canyon?
I don't know the frequency, Zach. You'd have to ask the medical care providers at that. I don't know how often that was. I do know that the family members, the suspects, had received some sort of training from the state that they were supposed to try to administer some of the treatments at home. between treatments where she was going to be taken in. And then they were supposed to log in the treatments on an iPad that was provided to them by the state as well to keep track of her treatment. But my understanding is that none of it was tracked. We don't believe any of what was supposed to have been done at home was even done. But I don't know how frequently medical staff would have come to her. All the information we had on this case was that they brought her to the medical facility, at which point some of the times they saw just things that were odd. That at one point the victim came in what they would call inappropriately dressed. In other words, she was just wearing a T-shirt with no shoes, and she was just brought as if they pulled her out of bed and took her. And then they also made note in the investigative file that it was noted by hospital staff that many times the family members, the suspects in this case, would not even help her get out of the car. They just had her get out of the car on her own power, which I can imagine was pretty difficult in her advanced state of deteriorating health. So certainly a heartbreaking situation. This is absolutely a heartbreaking development, but we will be holding these three suspects accountable to the extent possible by the law.
Were her family, this is Alicia Barrera with KSAT 12 News, were her family members receiving any payment to take care of her? And also, how prevalent are these cases in Bexar County?
Well, I believe that they were receiving payment, Alicia. I don't know the full details on how much they were receiving, but I do believe they were receiving payment for her care. That's my understanding. Also that she was receiving certain benefits. SSI, I believe, was one of the things that she was receiving. But I don't know if these folks were cashing in on that or what. I do know that she also had food stamp benefits that were, my understanding is there was a large balance on that as if they were not redeeming those. And so all of that will be part of the ultimate investigative packet. And quite frankly, there may be additional charges in addition to what they're already facing of the injury to a disabled person with serious bodily injury.
The affidavit says that the medical professionals were overseeing her case since June and that they had counseled these people at least 3 different times, that they weren't taking proper care of her. So at what point do you look at perhaps charges for medical personnel? I mean, how bad does somebody have to be before medical personnel have some sort of duty, sacred duty, to take care of somebody who obviously isn't taking care of themselves?
Well, absolutely a valid question, Sue, and that's one that I've had myself for our investigators. We wouldn't rule that out. While I can't sit here and tell you, well, there's an active investigation involving healthcare in the aftermath of an incident like this, of a death like this. Absolutely, you bet we're going to ask questions as to what did medical staff know. At what point did they know it, and then what was done about it? Did they report it up their chain of command to administration, and then did administration do anything that could have prevented the death of this poor lady? At this point, I just don't have those answers, but certainly those are things that are all looked into as a result of these investigations. No, I don't have it in front of me, but if we're able to get it to you later today, we absolutely will. Any other questions before I proceed with Spanish soundbite on the same case? Okay. Esta tarde nosotros estamos dando información tocante un caso de una mujer que falleció a causa de familiares que ellos estaban encargados de cuidarla con problemas médicos que ella tenía. Los 3 sospechosos, Roxana Carrero, Pedro Luis Carrero y Oscar Domínguez, los 3 fueron arrestados la semana pasada por el tratamiento de Patricia Martínez, una mujer de 58 años de edad que ella estaba en condiciones críticas a causa de que estos 3 sospechosos no le estaban poniendo atención médica, no le estaban dando suficiente tratamiento médico. Y este fin de semana, el sábado a las 2:25 de la tarde, nosotros nos dimos cuenta que la víctima falleció a causa de sus condiciones médicas. Y ahora será posible que los tres sospechosos se vayan a enfrentar con cargos de homicidio, pero por ahorita ellos tres todavía están bajo la custodia de nuestra cárcel con el departamento del sheriff del condado Béjar. Ellos todavía están en custodia de la cárcel y están aquí en $85,000 de fianza que todavía ellos quedan bajo de custodia. ¿Será posible que ellos se van a enfrentar con otros cargos? Pero en estos momentos todavía siguen con los mismos cargos de la semana pasada. ¿Hay preguntas?
Sí, Sheriff Jaime Pelufo, Univisión. Y la razón por la cual no le incrementan los cargos de manera inmediata es porque los cargos actuales conllevarían a un mismo castigo que si fuera homicidio o por alguna otra razón.
No, pues ahorita el nivel de estos cargos es que le decimos first degree felony, que eso es el mismo nivel que homicidio. Entonces ahorita hay que saber si está en nuestra ventaja para nosotros, los investigadores, ponerles los otros cargos, porque ya con cambiar los cargos será posible que necesitamos más evidencia para probar esos nuevos cargos. Entonces, para nosotros tenemos que fijarnos, antes de poner otros cargos, podemos probar esos cargos con evidencia. Y si la respuesta de eso es no podemos probar el otro nivel de delito, entonces lo tenemos que dejar con el que sí podemos probar. Entonces, en eso nos estamos viendo ahorita, si se puede probar con lo que tenemos ahorita. Okay. Any other questions on the death of Patricia Martinez before we move on to the other case? Okay. As you all know, Friday afternoon we were involved in an incident where we received a call off of Grosenbacher Road at 12010 Old Onyx. Old, common spelling, Onyx, Onyx, for a report of shots fired. The victim in this case, the reporting person in this case, I should say, called in shots fired, that she was not sure if somebody was shooting at her home, but regardless, asked deputies to come check it out. When deputies arrived, they saw a gray vehicle that may have been involved. That gray vehicle fled from them at a high rate of speed. They engaged in a pursuit. That pursuit lasted several minutes and ended at Ingram Park Mall, where two suspects fled from that vehicle, both fleeing into the mall. One of them was caught soon thereafter in a store. The other one, in fact, was never caught to that point. We were able to identify, obviously the one that was caught was identified as a 14-year-old boy. He was found unarmed at the time of his arrest. However, there was a weapon found inside the car, which was a reported stolen car. The other suspect fled through, we know now, actually ran through the mall and ran to another establishment where we were able to pull up video. We were able to get that person identified as also a 14-year-old male. We were able to, thanks to video surveillance provided by the other location, we were able to determine that 14-year-old male made a phone call to a relative, a 48-year-old male relative, who then came to the location with a change of clothes. That 14-year-old is seen in that video waiting very calmly inside that other establishment and waiting for his 48-year-old relative to come and help him in his escape. That 48-year-old relative then came to the location, gave the 14-year-old suspect a change of clothes, and then took him from that location, thereby facilitating his escape from authorities who were actively looking. We have since identified not only that 14-year-old male suspect, who were not able to release his identity because he's 14 years of age, but the 48-year-old male accomplice is a gentleman by the name of Mike Fuentes. Now, earlier this afternoon, we did place Mike Fuentes, the 48-year-old, under arrest for aiding that escape, for hindering the apprehension of the 14-year-old. He was placed under arrest and a search warrant was executed at 136 Exeter Place, Exeter, Exeter Place. It's over near that same area off Grossenbacher. Now, it is believed that Mike Fuentes and this 14-year-old suspect both reside at 136 Exeter Place, where we did execute the search warrant. During the course of that search warrant, we were able to find 3 additional weapons, 2 handguns, and a long rifle, an AR-15 type rifle that was found there. Let me back up just a bit, though. On Saturday, we were also advised that in Macy's, one of the other stores where the suspect that was caught and arrested, there was a handgun found inside of Macy's on Saturday that we were not able to find on Friday. So that weapon is now in our custody. So at this point, we have one suspect, that 14-year-old male that was arrested on Friday, and a weapon was recovered from that car. And then a second weapon was recovered on Saturday. We believe that the 14-year-old that was arrested on Friday may have discarded the weapon that was found on Saturday. So it is possible that additional charges will be placed upon that 14-year-old that was placed under arrest. As to the other 14-year-old, although we arrested the 48-year-old other suspect, Mike Fuentes, we at this point are still looking for the 14-year-old suspect that remains at large. Although we cannot release his identity, we can say that Mike Fuentes is believed to be a parent of this 14-year-old suspect. So if anybody knows, has any information on where this 14-year-old suspect may be, he was the one that we showed pictures of on Friday that's seen wearing all black with some white lettering on his shirt and running into Ingram Park Mall. We are still looking for that 14-year-old suspect. At this point, we do still consider that 14-year-old suspect armed and dangerous. And so we are also asking anybody that has information on where he might be to please not confront him. Don't make any attempt to take him into custody. Just call us at 210-335-6000 and let us know so we can come make the arrest. But he is a wanted person right now. He does have felony charges that we're looking for him on. Any questions regarding that case before I do a Spanish soundbite on it? Okay. Esta tarde nosotros damos más información tocante un arresto y un caso que estamos trabajando desde el viernes. El viernes por la tarde nosotros recibimos una llamada al 12010 Old Onyx, cerca de Grossenbacher Road y Potranco, por un reporte de alguien que estaba disparando un arma. Nosotros, uno de nuestros oficiales se encontró con el carro, que él pensaba que eran los dos sospechosos. El carro huyó a velocidad alta y el oficial logró perseguir ese carro. Ese carro llegó hasta el Ingram Park Mall, donde 2 sospechosos huyeron a pie del carro. Los 2 corrieron dentro del mall, donde uno fue pescado en una tienda. Este sospechoso que lo pescamos tiene 14 años de edad y él fue arrestado. Ellos estaban en un carro robado y un arma, una pistola fue encontrada dentro de ese carro. Ya el sábado nos dimos cuenta que ese sospechoso, el de 14 años que ya habíamos arrestado, se aparenta que él tiró una arma dentro de una tienda y nosotros logramos encontrar, un empleado de la tienda nos llamó que se habían encontrado esa pistola dentro de esa tienda el sábado. Nosotros descubrimos video donde se ve claramente el sospechoso de 14 años aventando esa pistola, escondiéndola. Entonces él se va a enfrentar con otros cargos. En ese día, en viernes, nos dimos cuenta de otro sospechoso que ahora sabemos que tiene 14 años de edad también. Él iba manejando el carro robado. Él huyó a otro negocio y por lo que nosotros sabemos que el sospechoso de 14 años de edad, que no podemos dar el nombre porque es menor de edad, él fue a ese otro negocio, le habló a otro sospechoso, Mike Fuentes, 48 años de edad, que él se aparenta que es el padre del sospechoso de 14 años. Mike Fuentes se ve en video yendo para el otro negocio, dándole una camiseta para que se cambiara el sospechoso de 14 años y se supone por ayudarle a escapar porque sabían que las autoridades lo estaban buscando. Ellos se fueron de ese otro negocio y con eso Mike Fuentes, 48 años de edad, le ayudó a este sospechoso de 14 años a escaparse de las autoridades. Ya dándonos cuenta quiénes eran, nosotros aplicamos por órdenes por arresto para los dos sospechosos. Esta tarde Mike Fuentes fue arrestado por el cargo de ayudar al otro sospechoso que se escapara. Nosotros ejecutamos una orden de reviso en un apartamento donde viven los dos sospechosos en 133 Exeter Place, que está cerca de Grossenbacher Road, esa área donde los disparos estaban pasando. Encontramos dinero en efectivo, nos encontramos con varios chalecos antibalísticos y también 3 armas, 2 pistolas y un rifle estilo AR-15 que nos encontramos ahí en el apartamento. Ahora Mike Fuentes se va a enfrentar con varios cargos, ya fue arrestado, pero todavía, dispense, todavía se busca el joven de 14 años de edad que todavía lo estamos buscando. Tiene órdenes por su arresto y aunque no podemos dar el nombre, sí lo consideramos persona armada y peligrosa. Entonces les pedimos al público que si tienen información tocante dónde pueda estar el sospechoso, que nos hablen al 210-335-6000. Pueden ser anónimos y preferimos que nadie se le intente de arrestar al sospechoso de 14 años de edad. Es una persona peligrosa y nosotros preferimos que nuestros oficiales lo arresten. Nomás solamente queremos saber dónde está. El sospechoso de 14 años de edad es el mismo sospechoso que le enseñamos las fotos en viernes, unas fotos donde estaba corriendo esa tarde. Todavía se busca y quisiéramos información tocante dónde pueda estar. Any other questions?
We're talking about another topic.
Absolutely. So I have an answer to your follow-up question on the other case. I think that was Sue that just asked that question. Alamo City Dialysis, Magnolia Hospice Services are the healthcare providers that were involved in this case. Alamo City Dialysis, Magnolia Hospice Services. Okay. Yes, Sue, so you had other questions on something else?
Yes, there was a murder outside the Bearfield parking garage over the weekend, and I heard talk on the radio about the fact that there might be surveillance video. Do you have surveillance video? I know you have a big downtown security initiative, which is usually daytime. Do you have any thoughts about the state of affairs downtown and the number of assaults we've had on the Riverwalk and now right outside the county seat of justice? A guy died on the sidewalk.
Sure. We have already stepped up patrols in the downtown area. We have some SCORE deputies assigned down here. We do also, during the course of the day and the night, have reserve deputies that we've deployed onto the Riverwalk area for an added level of protection. Additionally, our special operations groups, namely our gang unit, our organized crime group, they drive in patrol in marked patrol units. They are deployed down here on an as-needed basis. So, for example, last night I know we had several concerts that were going on, one at the AT&T Center, one at the Alamo Dome, that were both expected to draw large crowds. And so in advance of that, we did make sure and deployed extra folks in the downtown area from the sheriff's office. Now, not to say that the SAPD and the Park Police aren't doing an outstanding job at patrolling the area. We just would feel more secure giving an added layer of protection if it's something that we can provide. It's certainly something that's within our means, and so that we did so last night. But we are in the process of increasing patrols where we're able to. The other thing that we did last week was we put out a directive to all of our patrol deputies that although they may work out in the unincorporated areas, from time to time during the shift, they will have to make trips downtown, for example, to book a suspect into the jail or to book property into the property room. They've been given the directive that before heading back out to their patrol district in an unincorporated area, we've given them a predetermined list of stops we'd like them to make. So, for example, before they head out east of here, they've been directed to drive through downtown visibly with cruise lights on so that they can be observed. and just stop by at least one, two, or several of these points of interest that we've directed them to stop off at. Again, it's just our measure, or our way of trying to increase a presence downtown.
Sheriff, just to clarify, it is two medical providers, Alamo City Dialysis and as well as Magnolia Hospice Services, or is that all one company?
No, I've got them listed as two here. It was just handed to me. So Alamo City Dialysis, and I don't know where their office is, and the Magnolia Hospice Services is the other.
Do we know which of those two did both of them report to you, or was it one?
No, I think the report to us came from Adult Protective Services is who reported it to us. But I don't know who reported it to Adult Protective. Okay. Any other questions?
Sheriff, this is Dan Katz with TPR News.
Yes, sir.
I had a question about the Bear County Jail audit. I was wondering if you had an update on that. We were told originally that it would be completed in January or February, and we were looking over one of the contracts that said it would be done no later than August 1st. Do you have an update on that situation?
We know that we're ready to go on our end. We were actually preparing to present tomorrow, but then we were told over the weekend that when the agenda came out that line item was not there. We are coming into Commissioner's Court tomorrow prepared to answer whatever questions may be presented to us. Did it die? Okay. We were coming into Commissioner's Court tomorrow prepared to present whatever information, whatever questions may be posed to us. That hasn't changed. So I know that our consultant is just about done. The last few drafts that I've seen, we're pretty close to final drafts. So on our end, we're ready to roll whenever commissioners are.
Okay, I'm sorry. It got disconnected right in the middle there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm really sorry to ask you to do this, but could you repeat it once again?
Yes, sir, absolutely. So we were prepared to come in and present to Commissioner's Court tomorrow. But over the weekend, we were told that it was not on the agenda for whatever reason. And I still don't know why it wasn't. So we wouldn't be able to tell why it wasn't. We just know that it was not placed on the agenda for tomorrow. With that being said, since we were already ready to present, we are going to be bringing some information to Commissioner's Court with us that even though it's not on the agenda, there may be questions posed. So we're ready to roll on our end. The last couple of drafts that I've seen from our consultant we're pretty close to final drafts, and so while it's just like a 60-page document, it's an expansive document that was put together from our consultant Detain Inc. From what we've seen, no big shocker that there's maintenance issues that need to be addressed. I don't believe that either of anything that I've seen from either of the two jail consultants says anything about a new jail or anything that ungodly expensive, but certainly that there's just maintenance that needs to be kept up with, which is no secret. We all know that a 30-plus-year-old jail, a building of this size, is going to have some ongoing maintenance issues that we're working with facilities to make sure that they stay on top of. Okay. Any other questions that I can answer on this or anything else, y'all? Okay. Well, I thank y'all for joining us. If you've got any follow-up questions, our public information office will be happy to answer whatever those may be for you guys. Thank y'all for joining us. Be well.